Everyone. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's an honor to be here. My name is Clélio Leite. I'm the president of the Portuguese UAS Association. We are going to talk in a very important topic for UAS, for unmanned aerial systems. And at my right side, we are pleased to have Mr. Marc Coen from Unifly. It's a leading company in providing UTM platform for UTM services in the world. It's a leading company. And then my left side, we have Mr. Marc Coelho from our national navigation service provider. And remotely we have Mr. Andrew Hatley from EUROCONTROL. And we'll start through Mr. Andrew Hatley, who is a researcher in drone unit at EUROCONTROL Experimental Center in France. He was the technical director of the Costa project between 2017 and 2019, produced concept for USpace, Europe's UTM system, and is now a technical director at EUROCONTROL. Okay, all this is very important because UTM will set the foundation for urban air mobility and advanced air mobility, and will do a leap forward in the industry to make this a big sector in the aviation. So, Andrew, you have the floor. Thank you very much to join us.
Okay, you hear me okay? And you can see the presentation?
Yes, crystal clear.
Okay, I'll go to the next page. So a quick introduction. What is USpace? USpace was a term that was first used in this Drones Helsinki Declaration in November 2017. It was later described a bit more clearly in a thing called the Blueprint document, which came a few weeks later, which described 4 levels of USpace and gave an approximate timetable. These levels contain a set of services, and these services were described in March 2018 in a document called the Roadmap for the Safe Integration of Drones into All Classes of Airspace. So at that point, a project that I was the technical coordinator of picked up this input, and we developed a concept of operations which explained how these services work, how they're used, and how they support the safe operation of drones. And we described in some detail the U level 1, which is the kind of beginning level, 2 and 3. We did not go into U level 4, and some of our descriptions of U3 are a bit vague, actually, but okay, it was enough to get started. So during the life of this project, we made 3 versions of this concept of operations, and it's available for you to download if you want to. So after that, quite soon after that, we began to see some regulation coming. EASA were busy, and 2 regulations were developed and produced in the spring of 2019. One of them called 945, which was about the vehicles, and 947, which is about how the operation should occur. And these 2 regulations really encapsulate U1. They show basic stuff like registration and electronic, well, not electronic conspicuity, but the schemes that were necessary to identify the drones. And these have been in effect since the 30th of December 2020. And there is some supporting material as acceptable means of compliance and guidance material, which can be downloaded for these. And there have already been updates to these regulations. U2, which was where the real interest is, has been regulated by 3 regulations which were published in April this year and which take effect in January of 2023. And some acceptable means of compliance and guidance material is being prepared at the moment, and this will be published at the beginning of next year as a notice of proposed amendment, which means public comment is possible. So you can look at these regulations now, and when the NPA arrives, you can tell us what you think of them and how they should be adjusted and so on. There is currently no regulation equivalent to U3 and U4, which is where we see the services which will support higher density operations. I'll give you a quick overview of this 2021-664 regulation. It embodies the core of an initial U2. It is really aiming at getting something started. It supports low density operations. It provides a basic UTM service. There are 6 services described, 4 of which are mandatory, 2 of which may be decided as being needed by the state. And there is a description of a thing called a Common Information Service, which is kind of interface to the air navigation data, the geography of the sky. The interesting thing about the approach of the European Commission, these regulations, is that they see these USpace services as being provided commercially and provided by multiple suppliers operating in the market. So we will see in one location multiple service providers operating. Okay, what's been going on in Europe in terms of the deployment of USpace? There is a periodic survey. There have been 2 versions of it so far. I can't really condense the whole thing down in one page, but I would recommend that you go and find this survey and have a look at it. And it paints a very varied picture. We have some countries which are charging ahead. We have some countries which are waiting for this regulation to become clear. And so we have quite a varied environment. And right now, because of this regulation, there's a bit more uniformity because everybody is now working towards how to deploy these 3 regulations. There is an organization which helps you get up to speed and deploy these. The organization name will change soon. It is currently called the European Network of USpace Demonstrators, and it is run by 4 European organizations together: EUROCONTROL, EASA, the CESAR joint undertaking, and the European Commission, all combined to co-run this organization. And it is a forum with quite a large number of members, I think well over 100 members now, stakeholders, states, USpace service providers, UAS operators, everybody like that, coming together to share best practice, to ask questions, to get guidance, and to really help the deployment. So I would recommend you have a look at that webpage, and if you're interested, think about applying. And then finally, what's holding us back? There's still a lot going on with standardization. Really, there's a lot to be done. We've seen some good work done. There's a reassuring acceptance of international standards. We're not blinkered to try and only produce things ourselves in Europe. So we're working with ASTM, but also EUROCONTROL have a leading role. And there's a project which is running, which is in keeping an inventory of these standards. So if you want to see what's going on, where you can contribute, because we really need a lot more done, then I would recommend you have a look at this standards project, the AW Drones project. The other area where we have work to do is public acceptance. There's quite a lot of research ongoing, but curiously enough, the COVID crisis has anecdotally softened people's attitudes towards drones. This is a photograph here of medical delivery, which is, it's not an experiment, it's developed into a full-time program, and it's flying between the islands of the west of Scotland, and it's considerably faster to send medical goods around by drone. You can fly in 20 minutes a journey that would take 6 hours if you had to wait for the ferry and drive a van. So this is helping public acceptance, but there's still more to do. And then just looking forward, a quick view of where we're going. There's quite a lot of ongoing research going on, and the hot topic at the moment is urban air mobility, which is a combination of different factors, but the key word is urban, so high ground risk. We're trying to look at high density of UAS operations. There'll be more use of certified operations, including higher mass. The picture at the bottom is a vehicle built by Pipistrel in Slovenia, and this is going to be used along with the volocopter in the upper picture in a project which I'm now currently working on. I'm again the technical lead of this project, which is the Chorus extension for urban air mobility. And Marc's company are one of the participants in this project. It's quite large, involves 7 different countries. So we will aim to extend our ConOps and try to better define U3 and include the definition of U4. So that's just a quick baseline of where we are. The end of my presentation, back to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Most interesting, your presentation. I would like just to ask you a quick question. It's regarding, you mentioned multi-service providers are going to come into play. And the question is, what about certification, I mean, of those providers? Because
this is a hot topic. The member state has to set up a body which will be in charge and will have to certify these service providers. And a lot of heads are being scratched about how on earth to do this. So this is an area where I expect quite a lot of collaborative work to happen in the next 2-3 years. And interestingly enough, if you look on the website of CINEA, there is a call at the moment for a research project, a thing called a Digital Sky Demonstrator, which is offering some money to help with deployment. I would be pretty surprised if these proposals don't include something about how to do certification.
Okay, Andrew, we need to move. We need to move forward. I'm sure we have a lot to hear about you. And now I pass the floor to Mr. Marc Coen from Unifly, and we are looking forward to his presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here again.
Just waiting for a little bit for time to jet to fly over, so I don't have the background noise. During my presentation today, I'm going to give you a short overview of where we stand with UTM currently and how it fits in the USpace services that Andrew just provided. So looking at the UTM platform, the objective of the UTM platform is to be a single source of truth, both for the drone pilot as well as the drone operator, and also for the authorities. And think about authorities as national authorities like the air navigation service providers, but also local authorities like port authorities, the police and security services. Next to the UTM platform within Unifly, we also took a small sidestep with the Blip, which is a tracking device specifically developed for drones. We saw that there was a need for it at this point in time, and a good example there is the demonstrator that Volocopter did in Singapore in December 2020. They were able to do that because they had our tracking device on board as well as the UTM platform sitting at the CAA and the ANS speed, so that it could track the Volocopter drone flying in Singapore. Looking at the UTM platform, we currently have 3 types of interfaces. We have a mobile application, and that goes for all of the UTM platform providers, not just for Unifly, based on iOS and Android, which mainly is focused to the operator, the drone pilot, with a focus on in-flight functions. Then we have a web interface. Where again the web interface is targeted on the one side to the drone operator. We have a simplified version which is called the drone web, which is simply a web page where the drone operator can see where he can fly and where he can't fly, what are the no-fly zones, and check on the regulations that are in place, as well as an operator portal for the more commercial drone operator, where he can do fleet management, planning of his flights, and getting authorization requests. And then we got for the supervisors, so those are the authorities, the supervisor portal, where they can manage the authorizations, where they can do monitoring, see where the drones are flying, potentially link that to an ATM system so they have a full view of where the manned aircraft which potentially could impact a drone flight is visualized. So we're not showing an airliner that is flying at 30,000 feet in the monitoring phase. Then there's an investigation part where you can replay the activity that has been done. So if an incident has happened, you can see who were the involved parties. And then last but not least, the airspace management, so modules for the authorities to manage the airspace, to create the different geo zones, as well as temporary no-fly zones. For example, if an accident happens on the highway, and at that point you want to block drones flying over it, with those tools you can easily create temporary no-fly zones and make them available towards the drone community. And then last but not least, there is a public API which is available, which is a tool to link with other platforms and other systems. Think about control stations where multiple units come together, as well integration with the ground control stations from the drones, so the systems controlling the drones, so that information from the UTM system can be sent to the ground control station, like the temporary no-fly zone, for example, so that the ground station or the operator operating the drone using the ground station can react based on the information the UTM system provides. Looking at the USpace services, and I'm not going to go into detail of the different services, but as Andrew explained, you got the CISP services, and then you got, on the member state side, you also have the competent authority that have systems like the registration and the SORA authorizations put in place. And then you've got the open markets where you have the USSPs that are playing with some standard services everybody needs to provide. On top of that, there are some value-added services, and then some services that are needed to have everything in place. If you look to the current market of the UTM service providers, the one in green are already in place, and most of the UTM service providers have those. The couples in orange are the ones that are in development, and then the other ones are services we're kind of looking into, like analytics is a good example. We have all of the data in the UTM platform to do the analytics. The questions we are currently asking ourselves is, do we as a UTM platform provider provide the analytics, or do we foresee the link with BI tools that will actually do those analytics for us? And then the last slide, looking at some of the opportunities and the challenges in the market today. There's a lot of discussion on drone detection systems and integration with UTM and drone detection systems to identify friend or foe. Which seems to be quite easy, but it's quite complex, because we have the position of the drone, of the tracking device, based on a GPS location. The drone detection system might have a location which is a little bit off. Now, if that location is 2 meters off, do you see that as one drone, or would it be 2 drones flying next to each other? So it's something we're currently looking into on how we do that integration. There's a lot of discussion on ATM UTM or UTM ATM integration. A lot of questions being asked right now. Do we need both ways? Showing the manned aviation in the UTM system is something we currently do, where there is a need for the manned aviation to be shown there. But the question is, do we need to have the same, let's say the drones being visual in all of the ATM systems, or is it enough that we have it only in the controlled airspace, the CTRs, and for the rest, planes have priority over drones, and we don't need to visualize drones in the UTM platform. For me personally, one of the biggest challenges that, in my view, is not tackled enough is what about general aviation? In uncontrolled airspace, they don't need to have a transponder on board, so they're not visible in the UTM system or in the ATM system, but they do pose it. For me, that's where the biggest risk is on potential collisions between drones and general aviation. So for me, that's something we need to fix. And then the last point is, if you look at drone operations today, in most cases it's one pilot and one drone, but we are gradually moving to autonomous aviation, where you have one operator responsible for multiple drones. So be able to have that as something that is possible. We're going to need a lot more automation than there is today. And it can't be that for getting approval for a flight, it will take you 4 months to get all of the approvals and build a book thick as that. We need to find a way to automate that process and speed up the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marc. Incredible. Just a quick question about trial and evaluation, experimentation of this service. Can you talk a little bit about
yes, so far there's been a lot of trials, a lot of demonstrators that have been done. I just came back from Hamburg, where we had a panel and where our CEO made, for me, an incredible remark. So he's Dutch, so you need to take that into account. And he said, we need to stop of us being a flying circus, going around in different cities, showing our demonstrator, and then move on to the next city to do the next demonstrator. I think the Safir project in Belgium is a good example, where we demonstrated UTM being able to facilitate flights in the CTR of Antwerp, in a dense city, over the harbor. The Sapphire project was done 2 years ago. It resulted in a commercial project with the Port of Antwerp, commercially putting a UTM platform in place to authorize flights, and I think that's where we need to go from the demonstrators, because Unifly and the other UTM providers, we have been part of about 20-25 demonstrators. For me, for now, I think the time is right to move from the demonstrators and gradually try to move into commercial projects.
In a realistic view, when do you think is going to be, we are going to see high-density flights over urban environment, let's say populated areas?
Yes, I think for me that's the $10 million question. It's something that keeps us awake at night as well, because when we started Unifly 5 years ago, everybody was thinking that 2025 was the date that it would really take off, that you had a hockey stick, and even the taxi drones were supposed to be flying in 2025. To be honest, I think it will be at least 5 years before we're going to see a reasonable amount of commercial drones flying off, and then 5 to 10 years before you see actually high density of drones flying in the airspace.
Yes, I do believe there's a lot of pressure of venture capital into this, trying to give a very bright scenery faster. So, but it's very important to have your as in the industry and with the foot on the ground to know exactly where we are in this roadmap towards UAM, a true UAM. Okay, thank you very much. And now I pass the word to Marc Coelho. And
thank you.
Please, you have the floor.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to thank Portugal Air Summit for inviting us to be here once again. It's quite an honor and a pleasure. And also, Clélio, thank you for moderating this panel, Andrew, and Mark as well. Well, just to be quite short because, well, actually time is short. So NAV Portugal is the air navigation services provider for the Portuguese airspace. And I must say our airspace is quite huge, in fact. It goes about 5.8 square kilometers, so it's lots of airspace to cover. Especially, there's one peculiarity about our airspace. We combine the expertise of having an European flight information region and an oceanic flight information region, therefore ICAO-led. So it will be interesting to see how we can implement unmanned traffic management using the European expertise and also the international high seas expertise. We have 10 towers to control our airspace, actually, and I'm not going into the numbers of our controlled flights. We're living an optimistic and rather positive view right now, so let's hope they will start to increase. Let's hope so. Our main engine, people, we have 957 employees right now, so it's quite a huge force that will drive innovation, resilience, and all of those values. Speaking about values, our mission, well, it's based in two primordial pillars, safety and efficiency. It goes without saying safety is paramount to aviation. This is a cliche, but what a cliche for aviation. Our vision, well, we are ANSP of excellence, and our values, safety, professionalism, innovation, and we are stakeholder oriented. Now, all of you might have seen these graphics before. They're from the European ATM master plan, and they show us our airspace as it is today and the airspace and how we would like to see this airspace. Usually I like to face airspace as a continuum. There's no UTM layer, no ATM layer, a higher altitude layer. It should be just one single layer, a single system, but it's not as it is today. We'll get there somehow. But the future architecture of this airspace combines a high degree of automation, digitalization, everything is connected, everything runs smoothly. Now, talking about UTM, we are part of two major USpace demonstrators right now, AMULED and Assured UAM. the urban air mobility is close linked with unmanned traffic management. They both go hand in hand. So we are in the advisory board of these two major demonstrators, and with these demonstrators we will some sort of get a feeling of what's next, of how we can apply what we are learning now and use it in the future. And we are doing this also, and I had several examples here for UTM and for USpace demonstrators, but I'm referring to the Council, for example, the Civil Air Navigation Services organization. Now, this organization is very important. Firstly, because it combines 85 air navigation service providers. It's an international organization. So the expertise value is quite high. And with this organization, we are able to influence, so to speak, the way things are going. We have been contributing for the USpace regulatory framework, for example, for the acceptable means of compliance, guidance material of EASA, for EUROCONTROL, helping EUROCONTROL also to develop standards or to advise. And this is a very sometimes burdensome work, because you have to read hundreds of pages, you have to go through hundreds of things, but it's quite rewarding when you see ultimately a draft from the European Commission or from EASA that your comments are there, your vision is there, your concerns are there, and the Civil Air Navigation Services organization has been making a wonderful and terrific job concerning this. And speaking about collaboration and cooperation, this is also a graphic that most of you have seen, maybe Mark, you've seen this too as well, but it shows clearly that we can't do this alone. NAV Portugal alone can't do this. We need to be together with other stakeholders, civil aviation authorities, safety and security authorities, insurance companies. We all must combine our efforts in trying to make this as a whole new level of aviation. And this is the whole new level of aviation I was talking about. From the 26th of January 2023, our airspace will undergo a revolution like it had never seen in some years from now. We will have USpace airspaces throughout Europe. This will open the door for UTM, for urban air mobility, and for a new way of facing our airspace. Until now, the airspace up to 500 feet was used only for takeoff, landing, emergency services, search and rescue, military activity. So USpace will allow the integration of new aircraft, either autonomous, remotely piloted, whatever. First, medical deliveries, goods deliveries, and then people being transported in autonomous aircraft or not. But we have still some concerns, as Mark said, and as Andrew said very well. The first, this is not by any order, it's just public acceptance is the first one that pops out. Noise, the drones or unmanned aircraft systems will fall from the sky to roofs and will fall onto. So the safety risk is there, and we as NAV Portugal, as the air navigation service provider, we will take care of this safety risk. There are other, like standardization, EUROCONTROL, vertiports. They need a place to take off and to land, very important as well. UTM integration, the charging scheme as well. We have a slight understanding that we need a charging scheme as we have for air traffic management. But we will also need definitely another charging scheme for unmanned traffic management. How will we charge for using the USpace? And this is ultimately what we would like to see in the near future. Unmanned traffic management, ATM, higher altitude traffic management. This is a topic for another Portugal summit, maybe next year, and space traffic management. But let's focus on UTM. This will be indeed the next evolution of air traffic management and the next step of airspace. And NAV Portugal will be here to accommodate this new challenge and to bring once again safety to our skies. Clélio, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think it was very interesting. This is the cherry on top of the cake.
Hope so.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. With all those new services coming into play and all more responsibilities adding to NAV, what about the workforce? Are you thinking about employing more people so you can these new demands be?
Well, this system, this new unmanned traffic management system, as Mark said, will be highly digitized. So it will be almost fully automated. Of course, the human factor will always be present. We will need more training, absolutely. We'll need more skills, absolutely. There will be a time that we will need some reskilling factor here. If we're going to hire new people, that's a question. I don't have the answer right now. I would say either we hire more people or we reskill people inside our organization to work with the new unmanned traffic management system. This is what I can tell you at the moment, Clélio. So,
okay, very, very well. And what about, so we have now a new date, 26th January 2023.
Absolutely.
For the implementation of USpace. Are we going to be able to be compliant with those dates? Any delays on the horizon?
Well, from what I know, Andrew, yes, go on.
He's laughing.
I don't expect many people will deploy that day. That's the day the regulation comes into force, but I think the deployment will follow over several years.
Okay. Well, I mean, the airspace, thank you, Andrew. The airspace, as we see it, the USpace, we're talking about bubbles at the beginning in most hazardous areas such as airports, critical infrastructure. So I think USpace will first be deployed there. And then, of course, it will be a question of progress throughout the airspace. Up until one day, we will have a whole new layer of USpace around our airspace. But I think, yes, we will do our utmost best to comply with this regulation, and it's in the interest of all, of Europe, of air navigation service providers, and also from the economy, because this will stimulate the emergence of new players, of new markets. So it's in the interest of us all that this is implemented on time in 2023.
Okay, I mean, as now you have the mission for the control, the air traffic control. I mean, it's most likely that you will get a lot of responsibility in the future for the management of all those services. What about the common EU services? Do you have any ideas about what's going to happen?
Well, this is as Andrew said, this will be an architecture based in competition. I would mostly believe that there's going to be a call for tender, for example, to provide USpace services. Several companies providing services, several services. So we still don't have a roadmap at NAV Portugal, but we are working on it, of course. It's a challenge, and we would certainly not like to miss that challenge. And this is obvious. This will instigate an answer from us, and I'm sure next year, here in the Portugal Summit, we will have some more concrete data for you.
Okay, very well. And okay, I just think this all will enable a lot of private companies to provide services. So it will be a new sector in the UAS ecosystem,
of course,
of business. So it's most interesting. Okay, I'm very happy with. If anyone has any questions to address, we have 1 minute.
All set for me.
All set for me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Andrew.
Bye, Andrew.
Thanks again.